Welcome back to CEO Conversations. This is where we highlight real entrepreneurs, real journeys, and the mindset behind building something meaningful. Today's conversation is with someone whose presence you feel immediately. She's the founder of Planet AP, a coach, a visionary who has gone through a full evolution of both business and identity. From building teams and leading at a high level to walking away from what no longer aligned and rebuilding from a completely different place. She represents a level of self awareness and growth and intention that a lot of people are still working towards. Help me welcome Miss Aeina P, joining us from Pakistan. Welcome, 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 welcome. And the P
Hello,
stands for Princess.
hello.
I saw your video and I had to add it. I had to add it. First off, thank you for being a part of CEO Conversations by ENG. How are you feeling today?
I feel fly like a G6, and thank you so much for having me.
You're awesome. You've always been a part of what we're building, and I value our friendship. I value what you do. You have changed my life for the better. So I'm excited to get into it. It's just going to be a casual conversation, girl talk, and I want to hear about you, right? So I want to start here. Before the businesses, right? Before coaching, who were you at your core? Take me all the way back.
Wow. So it's funny because I became a coach when I was 22. So it's almost like I was born and then I came here. Cause that's like when I look back, right? I'm like, I was literally a kid, right? And I think that in so many ways, it's the industry, the business, the work, and God itself that raised me into who I am. But I think that it's funny you say who I was before all of it, and my honest answer is exactly who I am right now. Because it's not that I became someone else. I think these last 5 years brought me back home to myself, to who I always was,
Right.
but just life made me forget.
So you built teams, right? You co-founded a marketing agency, you stepped into leadership roles, and still said none of it was planned, right? So what were you chasing during that time? When you say it wasn't planned, what do you mean by that?
I was chasing an external sense of worth. I thought that if I build successful teams and I build a successful business and I build a global brand, all of
Right.
that would mean that I was worthy, that I was good enough, that I mattered. And so everything that I was doing, even though the deepest core intention, yeah, it was to serve and it was to help, but then it was also almost diluted with the need for external validation, the need for something or someone outside of me to tell me, oh my God, like you're doing a great job. Oh my God, like, she's all that, blah, blah. And it really, really mattered to me to
Yeah.
define myself through external success.
At what moment did you realize that, like, what was that turning point for you?
It was, so all of this started in 2021, right? And I kept working and I kept working, and there was always this voice in my head that would be like, oh, like, you'll be enough when you do this thing. So, for instance, like, you'll be enough when you write a book. And I wrote a book and I published a book. I had this huge event. It still didn't feel like it was enough. Oh, you'll be enough when you're making this much money. You'll be enough when you're doing this. And it was constant, like, wow, like this never ends. And so no matter what I was doing, it was like I never let myself catch a break. I thought that I had to be perfect all the time. I had to look perfect all the time, right? And so I did build a company and I did have my own, but it was this point where I remember it was like November 2023 where I completely felt like no matter what I was doing, it was like my touch would just like make everything worse. So nothing that was related to me or my business was working. Everything literally stopped working. So no matter how hard my teams worked, sales are not coming in, leads are not coming in, money's not coming in. I used up all my savings to like literally like overinvest in different containers, but it was never about the money. It was that my energy, my frequency was so deeply misaligned, and I was so big on like controlling everything, right? And then when every single thing in my life stopped working, that's where I came to like this, oh my God, like something needs to give, right? And I didn't know what it was. And for it was just I felt like this inner war that was going on between like holding on to everything, staying and continuing the life that I was so familiar with, and going completely into the unknown. So it was around end of Jan 2024, when I heard this voice in my head that was like, you need to walk away from everything. And I was like, that's pretty darn stupid. I can't just walk away from everything. Like, what do you mean, right? And I was
When you
like,
say everything, are you talking about your business? When you say everything, are you talking about your business or what specifically? Walk away from
so
what
I'm talking
exactly?
about like both my companies. I'm talking about like a lot of my friends, like basically the entire life that I had built for like 2.5 years. So
Yeah.
it was like, oh, like you need to walk away from all of it. Just like fire everyone, leave the company to your co-founder. Don't even ask for your money back. Just like leave. And it was the most illogical thing in the world because I was crazy in debt and I had nothing to like, no money that I was earning. And I was like, how am I going to pay off everything if I don't work?
Yeah.
And all I had was like this voice saying that, oh, like you just need to go offline for 14 days. And I was like, what the hell? Like, that doesn't make sense, dude. And like at that time, my relationship with God was just one of like God was an acquaintance to me. Like, okay, I know of God. I sometimes talk to God here and there, but like to like have like an active consciousness of that presence, that was like a concept that didn't exist for me, especially not in business, because in business, like no one says that, like, like no one talks about God in business. Everyone says like business is like spirituality is here and God is like, like in business work, blah, blah is here. It's mindset,
Right.
it's effort, it's grind, it's hustle, it's all of that. And that's what I was a part of. And so that decision to walk away, even though like it pissed everyone off, and like that was the first time in my life that I feel like I actually did something for myself, not to gain anything, not to please anyone, but just because in my core, I knew that that needed to happen. And, those 14 days changed my life in ways that it's almost like there was a reality before that, and there was like a reality after it. There was just no going back.
Jeez. Okay. So I know you mentioned your businesses, but for our listeners and for our audience, can you talk a little bit about before your awakening? Can you talk a little bit about what those businesses are, and also like what made you start or get into entrepreneurship?
My own company was like a online coaching business, right? So I was an author and a speaker. I used to do events like, I went to Dubai for an event. I would have most of them virtually. And then I had the other one, which was something I co-founded with my friend, which was a marketing agency. And that was like a physical space, physical location. Everything was very hands on with it. And I was also the marketing director of a tech startup based out of the States. So I'm just like, I was
No
doing a
wonder.
lot. And like it's crazy because in my own company, I had like 9 people working for me. With the other startup, we had like a team of 6 people. And with the other company, I was managing a team of like, I think 15 or 20 people. So it was like a lot of like things that I was doing. And what made me start coaching was what I started off with. That was my first business. It's so fascinating because when I became a coach, something I did for myself, like something I wanted to learn to, because I wasn't in a good place in life. And I always, since I was a kid, I had this like purpose in my heart that I want to like, or, like I'm going to grow up to help people, to change people's lives. And I never knew like what that would look like, but I always, like deep down, I always had that. So when I became a coach, I was like, at first I thought, oh, like this is just something that I'm going to do on the side. Like, I don't know nothing about business. I've never studied business. So like it didn't even make sense for me to like think that, oh, I should start a business, right? But then a
Yeah.
couple months in, every time I would be on a coaching call with someone, I would think, whoa, like this feels so good. And everything else felt so insignificant in comparison. And I feel like I knew that no, like this is what I need to do full time. So I started coaching because of that. And I just like in my head, there was just one thing. I'm gonna like, it's like, what's the worst that's gonna happen, right? Like, I'll start a business, like, I'll figure it out. That was it. Like, it was like, I'll figure it out. And
And look at you now.
figured it out.
You did. You did. So I personally, I know the value of coaching. I do feel like it's undervalued. And you've unofficially coached me as well, and gave you like tips that's so beneficial to me. What would you say to those who may be hesitant into getting into coaching or who may think that it's useless? Because a lot of people, like you mentioned before, talk about the hustle culture or just nobody would talks about the mindset part of the entrepreneurship journey and how important that is because you can have all the money, you could have some resources, but mentally, if you're not there mentally, you know what I mean? Then most likely it'll be even more harder for you. So what would you say to those people?
You know what's so funny is I used to think actually that it was about mindset, but that, like just mindset was enough.
Yeah.
And 3 years of God handing my ass to me, excuse my French,
Right.
taught me that mindset is like, like 2% of it. And so as an entrepreneur, one of the biggest things that you need, it's almost like a necessity for you as a business owner is to have like a really, really great spiritual foundation, because I promise you there will be so much shit that you learn through your business, and your business, right? I personally believe that your business is the best way to build your faith. Your best way.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter, like this is like so much more than religion, right? It's about having the internal alignment, because we are all multidimensional beings. We do not just exist on the physical plane. And so when we come into business, right, we think, oh, like it's so physical reality only. And that's where we get fucked up. Sorry again. But, but it's like, this is something I'm so passionate about, to be honest, because it's like, the biggest thing that gets in the way of you and your business succeeding is your internal world, which is not like something that, any mindset tool can, like shift for you. It's something about your identity, who you believe you are, A, and then B, it's about your ability to surrender, and C, it's about your ability to receive inspiration from God. Because here's the thing, every creation is finished. Okay. So when you start a business, let's take an example. There's a person over here, they start a business. They're like, okay, well, I want to, like make $10,000 a month through this business. Okay. For example, they start small. And now this person who just started this business, the version of them, the entire timeline, the entire reality where all of that has already happened exists right now. Okay. So when you go into it hustling, you're basically your energy is constantly signaling that I don't have the money, and you're literally creating more and more of a reality where you have to work harder and harder and harder. But it's like, it's not, you don't need to work harder. That's what every business owner in the freaking world should understand. It's about working multidimensionally, because that's how you're gonna collapse decades into days, into weeks, into months. Why? Because you will stop fighting with the mirror in front of you, because the reality outside of you is mirroring you, right? And so all those years, everything that I was chasing was like, it's like it was running away from me because my energy was so misaligned. And the reason why now it gets to be so easy, so many people go like, oh, like, of course now everything's working out for you because you've been working for so many years. And I'm like, no, it's not because I've been working for so many years. No, what I teach today is so different than what I was, like how I was coaching, how I was doing shit like a couple of years
Yeah.
ago when I started. And that's big, like, that's proof that once you understand the metaphysical, like laws of reality, you understand how it all works. You get to, that's like your, like, like a welcome to Earth manual, right? Like, it's like
Right.
you came to Earth, you don't know how shit works here. So you gotta learn how shit works here. So when you're doing all these things, when you're building those companies, when you're, whatever it is you're doing, your internal world is in your favor. Your identity is of the person who already has it, which makes it easier. Like, if you're someone who has like a fear of public speaking, for example, okay, versus a person who doesn't, like, they're so good at it.
Yeah.
Both of those people, how they show up on stage is going to be different, right? So if this person can take on the identity of someone who's baller at public speaking, they're not going to be scared on stage. 2 + 2 is 4.
I love that. I love that. I do want to get into what you mentioned about the multi dimensions. Was
Oh,
it?
yeah.
Yes. For our listeners who don't know and it's just going over their head, can you break that down a little bit for them?
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for asking. Okay, so here it is, all right? Now I want you to know that, and I'm going to keep this so simple, and so tell me if at any point my definition of simple is not simple, okay?
I will.
All right, I want you to imagine that, like, there's 3 planes of existence. Not even imagine, but that's what it is, all right? As in, this is your physical world, right? We all know what the 3D is, the physical world. We exist here. Now, the world of your mind is called the 4th dimension. All right. And this is where your imagination exists. This is where thoughts appear. This is where ideas come in, right? This is where, without being too technical, you basically like travel through time. Like, you go to the past. When you think about the past, right? You're traveling through time. When you think about the future, you're traveling through time. And then above that is the 5th dimension. All right. This is, so in the 4th dimension, there's only time. There's no space. Okay. There's no space. There's just time. And in the 3rd dimension, we have time and space. So if you want to go and get something, you have to like take your feet and you have to walk through space, and it's going to take time. But if I tell you, well, can you imagine that you're drinking a cup of coffee? Okay. There's no space, so you can imagine it right now. And while you're imagining it, that imagination happens in time. Does that make sense so far?
Yes, it does.
Okay, awesome. Now we go to the 5th dimension. All right. This is what they call the quantum field. All right. This is like a field of pure potential. This is energy. All right. We are all energy, like these AirPods, energy, my body, energy, Lashawn, energy. Everything is energy. Right. And so in the quantum field, infinite, every single reality that could exist, every, like amount of wealth that could exist, everything that could exist, everything that has ever been invented or will be invented, it all exists as like a little, like, let's say like a little ball of energy, like a drop of potential. Okay. Now, when we say we're working multidimensionally, what it means is you, firstly, remember that you are not a human being. Your consciousness, spirit, experiencing what it's like to be inside a human body. And that separation is the first step. The separation between you, your awareness. So if I tell you right now, okay, let's all do a little activity. All right. I want you to close your eyes so they can mirror you. All right. And to close your eyes, take a deep breath out through the mouth. And just for a second, I want you to say hello in your head. Okay. Now I want you to scream hello in your head. Now I want you to say hello in the voice of a child. All right. So if there is someone who is aware that there's a hello being said, then that voice cannot be you. Right?
It's trippy.
Yeah, it is. So it's like there is an awareness. So right now, if I tell you, just look around your room and look back at the screen, right? Just for a second. And just in the second that you look around, you're instantly aware of everything around you.
Yeah.
So it's the mind that narrates experiences, but you didn't need thoughts. You didn't need your thoughts to tell you what was in the room. You just saw and you knew.
Yeah.
Right? So then that part of us is who we really are. And that is our unconditioned awareness. That is our spiritual self, our spirit. Right? And this self is who we forget about. So we start to think, oh, I'm Anna, I'm Lashawn, this is my life, this is this, and we get identified and attached to our entire human life and experience. And as a result of it, we perceive ourselves, or we limit ourselves to the life that we've lived so far. But we are unlimited beings. And it's like, all we need to do to remember that is come back to the place, just this little tiny feeling of separation between awareness, that the you who's aware, and the thoughts in your head, the identity. And so from that place, working multidimensionally becomes understanding that, oh, this identity, this person, this version of me, for instance, who doesn't know anything about business, or who doesn't know how to be good at sales, for example, who doesn't know XYZ, right? Or, oh, like, people have all these things they say to themselves. Oh, I'm not good at this. I'm not good at that. What, all of that. When you come back to that space, you see that, oh, this is that identity, and I'm the one who's aware of it. And in quantum physics, when you learn about it, and everyone can look this up if you're new to this, the observer effect, right? It tells us that whenever consciousness, which is your awareness, observes something, any form of energy. That energy goes from being a wave of potential into a particle, meaning whatever we observe over here as the identity, as the limitation, as this is how life is literally what we're, like painting outside of us. So then as a
Now, this where
business owner,
manifestation comes in.
yeah, exactly. Because as a business owner, you need to align your identity with like with whatever you're creating, whatever you're here to do, as in go into that field, go from the place of awareness and start to observe a new self, observe different thoughts, observe new beliefs, observe what it's like to be unlimited, observe what it's like to know that we are infinite. And when we do that, like you literally download information. Every single person can do this. It's simply a matter of like learning to disconnect from this dimension that we've made to be so real. And so imagine like you start knowing yourself to be someone who's already making 10K. Your action will mirror. Everything becomes a byproduct of it. And you're like, that was so easy.
But I feel like for me, that comes with detaching from my old self. So there's been times where I feel like I am somebody completely different. Nothing is familiar to me anymore. Like certain friendships aren't familiar. Like I feel like, and maybe this is kind of similar to what you were talking about earlier, where you say you had to take your 2 weeks off. You had to let go of your businesses. You know what I mean? It's like I've reached that transition phase. I know we talked about this before we started this episode, where nothing was familiar to me. I was elevating. I lost control because I was the person who always wanted to control everything. I always, and I thought that me controlling every aspect and element of my life will give me the outcome that I was looking for. And in reality, it was holding me back. So I had to transition and I had to disconnect and I had to be uncomfortable and I had to follow the path of what felt aligned to the new version of me. So I guess my question to you was, what does building from alignment looks like for you? What does that look like?
It looks like whatever, firstly, knowing everything that I desire to build, right? Only and only exists as a desire in my heart because it's showing me who I'm meant to be. Like I would not have that desire if I'm not meant to be the vessel to bring it to life. So then
Yeah.
there is simply a gap between right now who I'm being and who I am when I have it. And all I need to do is bridge that internal gap. And like you said, it does mean like leaving behind your old self, right? And it has to be that. It's like you cannot, like have your foot in both worlds. Like you can't be thinking that way and oh, like I'm going to try this. No, it's like a completely different way of being, thinking, believing. Because here's the thing, and the other part of it as well is that once you've made a decision that, okay, so for instance, if I right now make a decision about something that in my business I want to experience, okay, so I'm like, okay, well, this is where I am. This is where, like physically I want to be. So then who is this person? Who is she? How does she think? Well, she doesn't think about things the way that I was thinking about it, right? She doesn't worry about the things that I would worry about. To her, everything that is to me a desire, to her it's a normal Tuesday. To her, it's such a normal part of her life that she's not like, oh my God. She's not even fazed by it anymore. She's like, oh, nice, fun. But it's like, so, and then this comes, the basis of it for me comes from having developed or just remembered consciousness of God, right? That's the biggest thing that alignment gives you, is because when you have consciousness of God, you are free. That's like the total liberation. Because think about our fears, right? What do people fear? Failure. Well, if I'm conscious of God, if I have the president of the world that I call God the president of the world. If I have the president of the world right here with me, he's not some God up in the sky. He's with me in every breath, every moment. Then damn, like failure doesn't exist for me, because if the president of the world is taking care of my affairs, why would I be afraid of failure? I wouldn't. Okay. What am I afraid of? Oh, what are people going to think about me? Dude, I literally have the president of the world with me. Why would it matter what someone else thinks about me? And just like that, you break every single idol, every single little fear, and you're free. You're free to be authentic. You're free to lead. You're free to literally, like, the world becomes your playground. And the biggest part, the best part, LaShawn, I swear to God, I used to really like business goals and my milestones used to be like, they used to sit very like way very heavy on my chest. Like, oh my God, like by this age, I need to do this. By this age, I need to have this. Da, da, da. Now I'm just like, wow, like if God already knows everything that I'm here to do. And all my job is to show up every day and give my absolute mother freaking best. Every time I'm inspired, even if it makes no freaking sense, I'm like, okay, I'll do it. Okay, I'll do it. I'll build it. I'll launch it. I'll create it. And it's like, you can't fail. You can't fail. And then because of that reliance in your faith, you're not going to be thinking about, like it not working out. You're not going to be thinking in limitation, thinking in scarcity, being in scarcity. And because that is the law of reality, like gravity, you won't attract that either. So you will literally simply attract a mirror of who you are, which is what? Abundance, wins, inspiration, love. The hell, like 2 plus 2 is 4.
I love that. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was going to ask you, I'm sure, and I know you talked about before your perfection paralysis, if you will, that you had before. How did you build up to that confidence to just be as confident as you are? Because I'm pretty sure it had to take, and I know you've been through a lot, you know what I mean? But what was that point, or what was it that gave you that confidence to just be so faithful? You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure it wasn't always like that.
Oh, it wasn't at all. However, what gave me the confidence was realizing that, funny enough, what I was looking for in everything that I was doing for all those years, everything, I was looking for God, but I didn't know it,
Yeah.
and I called it money and I called it this and I called it that. But what I was really looking for was this content heart, right? A heart that no matter what was going on would just be like, yeah, but we're good. We're good. That I was, oh my God, that was what I was looking for. And how I met it was because when I started, and like without taking you through the very, very long spiritual awakening year, but it was, the short version is, when I started meditating a lot, I got curious because I used to never even use the word God. I used to say universe, because God just felt like I had so much like, so many labels attached to the word God. Oh, God, like, yeah, God is like, oh, like the big leagues, dude. You don't want to go to God, right? And so I was like, universe. And it just didn't feel like home, It didn't feel like
Yeah.
home. And then I started to understand more and more of like distorting, like removing the veils of distortion from God. And I was like, but who is God? Why don't I even know God? And the more I got to like went down that, beautiful rabbit hole, it's like I stopped putting God somewhere out there. And I asked myself this one question. And it was this one day, I remember, where it all started truly, where I was sitting on the floor and I remember thinking, well, if I was to have a conversation with God, like he's my best friend and like right here in the room with me, right? How would that go? And it felt so weird. I'm like, like there's no one in the room. What do I mean? Like I'm gonna sit on the floor and talk to God, right? But then I literally sat down and I pretended that like God is like a person. I don't mean it in a blasphemous way, but like if as if like God was in the room like my best friend and I was just telling God what was going on. Like I tell my friends. That blew my mind because I realized like my prayers and everything that I used to, like how I used to show up in relationship to God was always so formal and professional. And so like, like, oh, like you got to be perfect before you go to talk to God. You know what I mean? But it's like yo, like he already knew, like he knew you're built like a little, you know what I mean? Like, so I was like, and I started like just leaning into my humanness when I would speak to God. And that completely changed my life. And the confidence part of it, to be honest, came from realizing that the reason what all the time, like for years when I used to actually not feel confident, but I would do it scared, was when I was trying so hard to be someone I wasn't, to be somebody. But when I let all of that go and I was like, wait, like all I have to do is just be myself. Yo, like like that's it. Like there is no training that you need to do because realize like when I accept myself and when I love the living shit out of myself, right? And I see myself in the light of that love, then it's like I'm just me. I'm not pretending to be someone perfect. No, like even the people that I work with, right? I'm like the only thing that keeps you from like feeling magnetic is authenticity, is because you think that you got to be somebody to like get people to take you seriously, but you just got to be your weird little silly self. And that's it. That gives you all the freedom and the confidence, to be honest.
And I wanted you to kind of talk about that to give the audience context of how your brain works, right? Because I know the last thing, and I want us to circle back to when you were talking about, because I think I paused you once you mentioned about the 2 weeks. Now I want to circle back now that we have the context. Okay. So you left your two companies, right? You took the 2 weeks off. What did you do during that time?
Specifically, I couldn't tell you, but I know that I did a lot of shadow work and a lot of like inner child work. And
Okay.
it was something that I didn't even know that I would like. It's like I was guided through it. Like I was inspired through everything that I took myself. Like I didn't have any process for what I was doing. Like I would go into these meditations for literally 4 or 5 hours and I will be purging. Like I will be bawling my eyes out and I'm not like, I don't know how like, it's like I didn't know how it was happening. I had no structure, no like script. I'm taking my not that it was just like I would go in the meditation, I would come out and I'm like, what was that? It was like that. So it was 14 days of that. Complete pure healing and purging and freedom, truly.
Wow,
Forgiveness.
moment. Like when you go through that spiritual journey and you start to put a mirror to yourself and you start to tap into different elements, it's a sense of freedom. It's a sense, this is my experience, it was a little intimidating. I was nervous, but I also felt a sense of calm. It was like, but I feel like I've grown so much from it. I've learned a lot from myself and I'm continuing to strengthen, my relationship and to continue going through my spiritual journey. But it's next level for sure. But it's so, so, so rewarding once you cross over that bridge.
Yeah, it really is. Like you feel like a completely different entity. You're like, what?
I don't even know who that person is anymore.
Literally.
So I did want to touch on something more recently because I saw a post that I felt that was interesting that you posted. You had a moment where someone told you how you should present yourself. I quote, "Pretty, please dress like a Western woman, and maybe we could listen to you." uncover the hair. And your response, no. That was such a powerful moment. And I'm going to insert the clips. But that was such a powerful moment. And it just spoke so much volume because of certain stigmas of Western women. You know what I mean? So tell me what was going through your mind at that moment?
I saw it, and so I saw it, and I was like, I was almost about to, like, like type a whole response that, like how we do, right? When we see something like that, we're just like, oh, like I gotta stand up. But I realized, like, yo, like I'm not even triggered by that. Like, that's just your view of the world. That's just your perception. So I was like, but I do want this person to be like, like to be taken for it. Like, I want them to know that they're not going to get away with just saying, like weird little stuff under people's comments. So, but I'm not that person who's going to, like, like, I don't think that anything I could have said would get through to him on an intellectual level because he's operating at a different level of consciousness. So it was more about also just like showing the people, my community, that yeah, like there's going to be people who say stuff like that, but who cares? You don't even have to, like, give enough energy to respond to it. Like with, oh, these fat stuff. No, I'm like, no, thank you. Literally. It's like,
I love that. I love that. It was such a powerful statement. I I had to bring it up. I had to. I had to. Okay, so now we're building again, but differently. So what does your business look like today and how does it differ from before?
so wow. My business is completely different today. And I used to, like, I had worked with a lot of business coaches, right? So I used to use all these like strategies they had given me. It was very like, to me personally, I see that way of working as a very inauthentic, manipulative way to get clients. I think that you don't need to push, and you don't need to like be in people's inboxes 24/7 and be like, hey, I notice you do this, but whatever, like the hell. Like, I think that your energy should draw people in. And that was always what I wanted to do. So that's what I just started doing. I got on YouTube. I started talking on YouTube. I just started teaching everything. I used to be told that, like, oh, like you shouldn't give away everything for free. I was like, if my shit can change someone's life, then I want their life to be changed. Like, you know what I mean? And when I just let that mentality go, and I was like, I'm going to do what feels most fun to me, what feels most alive to me, and everything will just fall into place. I swear to you, LaShawn, like, I just started with YouTube, and then I grew my YouTube to like, I think 14,000 subscribers, which was not even like, like it just happened on the side, right? And then I started doing Instagram. I started teaching group containers, these experiences that would completely like change people's entire fucking life. I swear. Like, I don't know where that shit comes from. Like, it's like I get so, like, everything that I create is just inspired. And when I'm delivering it, it's like I know the essence of what I want them to leave with, but everything just like, it's like a stream of energy just pouring out of me, and I create these, I don't even say I'm just a vessel for these experiences to be created. And it's like there were these brilliant freaking containers where like people were learning like how to bend freaking reality. And then I had this another one which was about shadow work and like, like basically healing your spiritual heart. Then I did a retreat in Bali last year, my first one, and my next one is in August this year. And so and by the way, my business is just me and God, and literally like Stan Store and ManyChat. Literally, that's my business. I do not have a team. Only for Bali, I have like a team working on the logistics and everything. And literally just a month ago, I hired an assistant for book related stuff. So it's like, and I've made probably 5, 6 times more money in like a year than I had in 4 years. And I don't get stressed. you know?
Yeah, listen, you are a ball of energy. Like you're so vibrant. I love that. So for someone who feels like they're starting over, questioning everything that they've built, what would you want them to understand?
I would want them to remember that everything that looks like destruction is just God clearing the ground for a renovation.
Wow. Say that one more time. Just repeat it so we
Everything that looks like destruction is just God clearing the ground for renovation. You can't like renovate an entire house without first destroying the old. So yeah, like it might look like, oh my God, the world is burning around me, you know? But it's just like in that moment, it's like you come online, you without anything else to tell you who you are. Because if you can feel worthy and whole when you have nothing outside of you, oh boy, like you're like everything falls into place so fast. Because now your worth isn't attached to your work or anything else. And that's
Wow.
freedom.
That was powerful. Thank you so much for that. I appreciated this conversation so much. I feel like I need it more than our viewers did at this moment. Your journey, your perspective, and the way you've chosen to rebuild with intention is powerful, and it's something that a lot of people needed to hear, you know? This is what growth looks like, not just success, but alignment. So for everybody that's watching, make sure you stay connected. We'll see you on the next episode of CEO Conversations. Anna, thank you so much for just being who you are. This was amazing. I thank you for everything. And
Thank you for
everyone, be
having
sure.
me, girl.
Of course, of course. Everyone, tap in, tap in, tap in, and we will see you on the next episode.